Your cat may sleep on a soft blanket, eat from a personalized bowl, and demand breakfast as if they own the house. But behind that pampered little face is the descendant of a wild hunter and a story stretching back thousands of years. Cats were not domesticated in quite the same way as dogs, cattle, or horses. Humans did not capture wildcats and immediately decide to turn them into pets. Instead, cats appear to have entered human life gradually, largely on their own terms. So, how did a solitary wild animal become one of the most beloved companions in the world? Our timeline begins before ancient Egypt, in the first permanent human settlements. Around 12,000 years ago, people in parts of Southwest Asia began settling in villages and cultivating crops. Once grain was harvested and stored, it attracted mice and other rodents. Those rodents then attracted small wildcats. The main ancestor of today's domestic cat was the African wildcat, scientifically known as Felis libica. Despite its name, this species lived across North Africa and parts of the Near East. It resembled a lean, long-legged tabby and was an excellent hunter of mice, birds, and other small animals. The boldest wildcats began approaching human settlements because rodents provided a reliable source of food. People probably noticed that having these hunters nearby protected their grain. Instead of chasing them away, they tolerated and possibly encouraged their presence. This created a relationship that benefited both sides. The humans received free pest control, while the cats gained access to abundant prey and some protection from larger predators. Cats probably were not treated as fully domesticated pets at first. They were more like welcome neighbors who lived around homes and food storage areas. Over many generations, the cats most comfortable around people had an advantage. They could remain close to settlements, reproduce there, and pass their less fearful behavior to their kittens. In other words, cats may have helped domesticate themselves. One of the most important archaeological discoveries in this story was made on the island of Cyprus. Archaeologists found the skeleton of a cat buried near a human in a grave dating to approximately 7,500 BCE, around 9,500 years ago. Cats were not native to Cyprus, so people must have transported this animal to the island by boat. Its placement near a human burial suggests that the relationship may have been more meaningful than simple pest control. However, we should be careful about calling this animal a modern domestic cat. It may have been a tamed or human-controlled wildcat. The discovery shows that humans were deliberately moving cats and forming close relationships with them thousands of years before the famous cat culture of ancient Egypt. For many years, researchers believed that cat domestication began primarily among early farmers in the Near East. That remains an important part of the story, but recent genetic research has made the timeline more complicated. A major study published in 2025 analyzed the genomes of ancient and modern cats. Its results suggest that the domestic cats that later spread widely through Europe were descended primarily from North African wildcats and arrived in Europe only around 2,000 years ago, not with Europe's first Neolithic farmers. This does not make the early relationship in the Near East or the Cyprus burial unimportant. Instead, it suggests that humans may have tamed or managed wildcats in different places and at different times. The precise location where the lineage of today's domestic cats first became truly domesticated is still being investigated. What is clear is that ancient Egypt transformed the relationship between humans and cats. By the 4th millennium BCE, there is evidence that people in Egypt were keeping or taming cats. One remarkable discovery from a cemetery at Hierakonpolis included the remains of cats whose injuries appear to have healed while they were alive. This suggests that humans may have captured, cared for, or managed them. Egyptian settlements produced exactly the environment cats needed. Grain stores attracted rodents, and the wetlands along the Nile were filled with birds and other prey. Cats protected food supplies and helped control animals such as mice and snakes. But in Egypt, cats became more than useful hunters. Images from Egyptian tombs show cats sitting beneath chairs, accompanying families and hunting birds in marshes. Some were given names, wore collars, and clearly lived in close contact with people. These images suggest that at least some Egyptians valued cats as companions, as well as working animals. This brings us to the famous claim that Egyptians worshipped cats. The truth is more nuanced. Egyptians did not generally believe that every household cat was a god. Instead, they believed that animals could display qualities associated with particular deities or serve as earthly representations through which divine power could be expressed. Cats represented a remarkable combination of qualities. They could be gentle, nurturing mothers one moment and fierce hunters the next. To the Egyptians, this balance of protection, fertility, grace, and danger had sacred meaning. The goddess most closely associated with cats was Bastet. Earlier in Egyptian history, Bastet was sometimes represented as a lioness and had a fierce, protective character. Over time, she became increasingly depicted as a domestic cat or as a woman with a cat's head. Bastet was connected with protection, motherhood, fertility, the home, music, celebration, and good health. Her major religious center was the city of Bubastis, where large festivals were held in her honor. People also offered mummified cats at temples as religious gifts. Archaeologists have discovered enormous numbers of these mummies. They were usually votive offerings, objects presented to a deity in the hope of receiving favor or expressing devotion. They were not all treasured family pets preserved after death, as is sometimes assumed. This religious practice eventually became so widespread that cats were bred specifically to be mummified and offered at temples. It may sound disturbing today, but it belonged to a very different system of religious belief. Cats were respected because of the qualities and divine powers they represented, but Egyptian society's relationship with them was complex. They could be companions, hunters, sacred symbols, temple offerings, or all of these at different times. From North Africa and Egypt, cats eventually began traveling much farther. They were especially valuable aboard ships. Stored food attracted rats and mice, and rodents could destroy supplies, damage ropes, and spread disease. A small, agile predator that required relatively little care made an ideal shipmate. As merchants, sailors, soldiers, and travelers moved across the Mediterranean, cats moved with them. They spread along maritime trading routes and later through territories connected to the Roman world. The new genetic evidence indicates that North African domestic cats reached Europe around the beginning of the Common Era and then spread rapidly, including along Roman military and trade routes. Cats eventually appeared in communities across Europe, Asia, and, much later, the Americas and Australia aboard European ships. For most of this history, people were not carefully breeding cats for appearance. They valued cats primarily for hunting rodents and for their ability to live around human settlements. This explains why domestic cats remain physically and behaviorally similar to their wild ancestors. A modern house cat still stalks, pounces, scratches, hides, patrols territory, and becomes intensely alert at the smallest movement. Even when the prey is a feather toy or your feet beneath a blanket, the ancient hunter is still present. Genetic evidence also suggests that humans began deliberately selecting certain feline appearances relatively late. The classic blotched tabby pattern became common only after the Middle Ages, and organized breeding for distinct cat breeds took off mainly during the 19th century. One important moment came in 1871 when a major cat show was held at London's Crystal Palace. Events like this helped turn cats from mostly working animals and household companions into animals increasingly bred for standardized colors, coats, and body types. Over the following decades, cat registries and formal breeds were established. Long-haired cats, short-haired cats, color-pointed cats, and cats with unusual ears or body shapes became part of a growing international cat culture. During the 20th century, cats moved even more firmly into our homes. Commercial cat food, veterinary medicine, indoor litter boxes, spaying and neutering, and changing attitudes toward companion animals made it easier for cats to live entirely indoors. Their main role changed from protecting grain and ships to providing companionship, although many cats would probably argue that their true role is supervising the household. Today's cat may live a very different life from the wildcats that approached the first human villages, but the connection is still visible. The animal sleeping peacefully beside you carries the instincts of countless generations of hunters. The story of cat domestication was not a simple moment when humans conquered a wild animal. It was a slow partnership. Wildcats followed rodents into human settlements. People recognized their value and allowed them to stay. Over thousands of years, usefulness became familiarity, familiarity became trust, and trust eventually became affection. Perhaps that is why cats still seem slightly wild and independent. They did not enter human history by surrendering completely to us. They joined us because the arrangement worked, and then, somewhere along the timeline, they also found their way into our families. If you share your home with one of these remarkable little hunters, tell us in the comments, does your cat behave like a pampered baby, an ancient Egyptian ruler, or a wild predator? And if you enjoyed traveling through feline history with us, subscribe for more stories about the cats we love.